Hey, my name is David Tetreau. The title of my presentation is What About That? A Productivity Hack for Frequently Asked Questions in Slack. This was built as part of the Bit Project Bootcamp that I was part of this summer and for this serverless conference. A little bit about myself. My name is David Tetreau. I'm a school resource officer and a U.S. Army veteran, and I'm aspiring to be a software engineer. This was one of several programs I took on the journey to gain skills and to eventually transition into a career in software engineering. So when I was trying to think about what I needed to build as part of this project, I started with a problem. So answers don't come immediately in Slack. During the boot camp this summer, there was a student one time that had a question about an error she got during the development process for one of the projects, and the error was module not found. So it seemed like a frequently asked question, something that might come up over and over again, but it took time, a little bit of time for her question to be answered, and it kind of stalled out her productivity, seemed to lead to a little bit of frustration, and it seemed like that didn't necessarily need to be the case. So I took that problem and kind of built a solution around it. Another problem I noticed: multiple sources of truth for large groups. If people are having to search for answers on various different platforms, whether it be Google Docs or Piazza or Slack or whatever the case may be, it leads to loss of productivity. Kind of takes time to look around for those various answers. Switching platforms can be time consuming itself. You're switching tabs and looking for information and searching. It kind of slows you down and takes away a little bit of your productivity and your momentum that you build up. And it can be kind of cumbersome switching between all those different, sources of truth or sources of knowledge. If you're in an academic setting and you're an instructor, between groups of students, there may be a knowledge void or a knowledge gap. You may have told the last group of students something that you left out for this group of students. Inadvertently, you might have left something out. In a workplace setting, you're onboarding new employees. You may have told the last group of employees that you hired, something that you left out this time for this new group of employees. It doesn't necessarily have to be the case. There's a solution for that. Another problem I notice, students or team members, they seek the answers to their problems, the problem they're currently having. As soon as they get the answer, they move on, and they don't really take time to internalize, what the problem that they were having and the answer and why it's the answer, or really take a proactive role in helping other students with the same problem. But I think I've built a solution for that. So it's a Slack bot, and it was built using the Slack Bolt framework, Node.js, JavaScript, and serverless web app hosting. So basically the premise is it all works on Slack using slash commands, and it monitors every message in the channel that it's added to for keywords that are in its knowledge base. If you look right here on the left, that block of code, await say, that's part of the Bolt framework. So basically it's sending a message to Slack, and it's going to say those blocks. That includes text, but this little line of code, thread underscore ts, that is a timestamp. So basically what it's doing, it's taking the timestamp for this message, and it's sending the reply. And if you come over here to the right, that's that same thread. You can continue talking to the bot in the same thread as long as the questions you're asking or the comments you're making are in its knowledge base. It recognizes the keywords that you're saying in your phrases. It will respond to those keywords that are in its knowledge base. So basically the bot answers the questions. The bot's name is Wise Guy. It's a serverless Slack bot, and it helps boost productivity. You basically use slash commands to update the knowledge base, and I'll show you that here in the examples. This first one, / update, that's the slash command that Slack recognizes. And the first argument is a keyword. And in this case, it's a key phrase. So what the bot's going to do, it's going to monitor all messages for this exact key phrase. And if it recognizes it, it's going to respond with this answer. So the arguments you give are a keyword or a key phrase, a question, and an answer. So the update command takes those 3 arguments. The question, what the purpose of that is it's kind of a frame of reference. If this were a single keyword, you would kind of need to know, well, what question is this valid for? And that's what this argument is for. That's the question argument and then the answer. Another example, / update, it's got a single keyword purpose. So everything that appears in the channel, it doesn't matter, what phrase or sentence it appears in. If purpose appears in that channel, it's going to pick that up, and that's an example of maybe a phrase that it might be included in. That's a frame of reference for you, and this is the answer that it will give if you use the keyword purpose. I help people by answering their questions, so that's Wise Guy's purpose. So the technologies that I use to build this, this is kind of a complicated workup here, a complicated architecture breakdown or schematic that I built, and it really got simplified as time went on. So basically what I'm working with now, bot code, is JavaScript, and it also includes a JSON file, which is the knowledge base, and that runs in Node.js, and it communicates directly with Slack via the Bolt framework. And basically, this is going to monitor Slack, whatever channel that you add it to. It's going to monitor the Slack channel for those keywords that are in that JSON file, and if it recognizes them, it will respond with a message. Pretty simple architecture. If you wanted to deploy this particular app to a cloud provider such as Azure, you could definitely do that, and you'd have to refactor a little bit, and that would be through webhooks. I'm going to give you a quick demo of what the bot can do. So the bot is running, as you see here. Slack Gold app is running on port 3000, so it's running in Node, and this is hooked directly to this Slack channel. So the bot is it's monitoring the Slack channel. So if you say hello, I know hello's in its knowledge base, so it replied there with a thread, and it says, hey there, what can I help you with? And you can continue talking to it. I'm going to ask, what is your name? So it does not know this one, and I'm going to demonstrate uploading or updating the knowledge base. So since it doesn't know its name, I'm going to give it the keyword name, give it a question, what is your name? And then I'm going to give it an answer. My name is Wise Guy. As you see, something's happening here in Node. It's updating the JSON file. All right, so I'm gonna ask it again in the same thread. What is your name? My name is Wise Guy, so he knows his name now. If I wanted to delete something from the knowledge base, it works kind of the same way, but it only takes one argument. So / delete, and I'm going to delete the same keyword I just put in, name. So it deleted that whole object with the keyword name. So I'm going to ask it again, what is your name? And it should not respond. It doesn't know its name. So, this can be updated to include any kind of information, technical information, whatever you wanted to put in here. You could add. There would definitely have to be some rules, some ground rules, set what you could add, what you can't add, kind of standardize it, what's considered relevant, what's not considered relevant. You could tailor it to your needs. So that is the demo. I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience with this project. So I learned about serverless and kind of the importance of serverless. Um, Complicated databases aren't necessary with serverless. Kind of eases the development process. It's affordable. You can kind of pay as you go, and also, it offers a wide variety of services that you can use, and you could build very powerful apps with low or no code sometimes. Yeah, it really kind of makes things a lot easier. I learned about WebSockets. I had no frame of reference or no idea about what WebSockets were. That kind of also eases the development process. You can run code through Node, just kind of like I did with my Slack bot, and it runs directly from your local machine and kind of eases the development process. There's no middleman there. I learned about using JSON files for many databases. I had no idea you could do that. During the serverless bootcamp, we used Cosmos DB, and that's another thing I learned about databases. There's a lot of different things regarding databases that I learned during this bootcamp. I learned more about Slack and the inner workings of Slack. There's really a lot you can do with Slack. You could add modals using this framework and the API Slack provides. You could add approval buttons and disapproval buttons. If you're a supervisor, you could add different blocks. They have a block building kit, and you can make customized Slack to your needs. And you could if it's a company, you can make a full onboarding process. You could put all of your files on there. There's places to upload and download files, and you could really tailor a Slack app to your needs. Some of the challenges included threading messages. It really took a little bit of time to figure out exactly how the timestamps work and how to keep the bot in the same thread that it's responding to. But that little line of code right there at the bottom is finally what I came up with. The Bolt framework is very well documented, but every use case is not included in it, so it takes a little bit of trial and error and a little bit of time to kind of figure things out. Well, once you do, it's kind of easy. If you were to want to deploy this particular app to a serverless web app, you would turn socket mode off and use HTTP, and there's some different configuration settings on the Slack app itself that you would have to do, but it's really not complicated, and you could have this running all the time on a serverless web app. So the experience with camp, I learned a lot about Azure functions. We did some stuff with Twilio and text messages. I thought that was really cool. We worked with APIs. We did some translating with with JavaScript and Azure functions. I learned a lot of soft skills like scheduling and meetings and presenting and CFP. I had no idea what a CFP was, call for papers. I had to turn one in for this conference itself. So a lot of good things I learned that really translate to the workplace. The biggest challenge I had was kind of keeping up with the schedule. There was deadlines, and there were a lot of tasks, and it was very task oriented and project oriented, and I had to keep up with all that. But that kind of mimics the workplace setting, and those soft skills definitely will translate into a job in software development in the future. So my future plans, I'm going to explore on my own. I'm going to pursue more software engineering courses. I'm going to practice my coding skills and create projects and get certified. Currently, I'm working on learning Python. Kind of what I've dealt with thus far is just front end technologies and JavaScript and things like that. But I'm diving into Python now, so I'm going to kind of branch out and maybe learn a little bit more back end developing. I'm going to stay in touch with my network. My network's kind of grown across the various projects and programs that I've taken. I'm going to definitely keep in touch with my network, and I'm going to be ready and willing to teach myself new things, and definitely help others along the way and teach them what I've learned and help them kind of get their start as well. So I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate what Bit Project has done and all the time that they have taken and effort that they put into this program, and I hope to pay it forward in the future. Thanks for listening.